We'll always travel in search of a sense of mystery and beauty and surprise that it's hard to get at home. But as our world moves ever faster, what we really can't get at home is the chance to go slow. Freedom from distraction. The time and space to put everything in perspective. In the age of the small screen, it can be harder and harder to see the larger picture. I spoke earlier about going to Alaska in midwinter to be outside my comfort zone, but a decade before that, I went to Alaska in midsummer to bask in an unearthly, silent place that's as populous as Manhattan would be if Manhattan had exactly 30 people in residence. Alaska looked to me like an adventure and a retreat house all at once. One morning I got onto a bus in Anchorage, and it rattled me for 5 hours through ever more deserted roads past the duct tape capital of the world. Then it dropped me off at a lonely railway depot in the middle of nowhere. After a while, I was picked up there by an even dustier bus, a white school bus that bounced me for 7 hours over unpaved roads, deep into the heart of nothing at all. When I got out, I saw a tiny cluster of cabins and 60 miles of nothingness stretching in every direction. A friendly young woman led me to the little cabin where I was to stay. "Well," she said as she opened the door, "as you know, we don't have any electricity here." I'd forgotten. "Plus," she went on, "as you'll recall, we don't have phones or Wi-Fi." "I see. We do have facilities, though, and if you need to use them, just walk 50 feet over to that outhouse. But remember, keep an eye out for bears." I laughed. She didn't. She wasn't joking. I was paying $400 a night for the privilege of living in the early 19th century. Because there was nothing to do, I went to sleep very early that night. And when I woke up, I did need to use the facilities, so I opened the door to my cabin. There, right in front of me, shining in the alpenglow, was the tallest mountain on the continent, Denali, which I hadn't really even noticed in my distraction the previous day. Around it was a silence stretching across 6 million acres, a size larger than the state of New Hampshire. I had no to-do lists to take care of, and there was little I could do in any case. And very slowly, I began to register the luxury of a day that didn't look like a thicket of skyscrapers and fast-moving cars, but rather like a vast, open plain. Once upon a time, we traveled in search of space, a huge hotel room, tapestries, a jumbo-sized bed. And of course, that's still sometimes the case. In certain ways, I did have huge space around me in Alaska, but I think more and more nowadays, we travel in search of time. Freedom from the 1,000 things that usually cut up our day into sharp and jagged shards. Some of us used to travel in search of information. Now, more and more of us travel in search of freedom from information overload. And the more that we can get at home, the more we crave what we can never get at home, which is often peace of mind. Deep down, I go on retreat for 2 reasons. The first is to remember what I most care about, which often gets lost in the everyday shuffle. The second is to ensure I always stay close to that. It can be really hard to remember your priorities when you're driving on the freeway through jam-packed traffic and the phone is ringing every 30 seconds. Changing the conditions of your life is a little bit like changing your clothes. You have to step out of them in order to make yourself up anew. And you don't have to consecrate an entire trip to sitting still, but even a tiny amount will make a disproportionate difference. The way you squeeze a drop of blue liquid into a glass of water, and instantly the whole glass turns blue. If you can't take a 2-week trip to somewhere clarifying, just turn on the auto response on your email for 1 day. Go for a long hike and leave your phone on the dining room table. Remember that spending less time on work can in fact make you more productive. It's only when we step back from this complex canvas known as the world or our lives in the world that we can make sense of either. It's only a rest that gives a piece of music its meaning, its beauty. And it's only, I think, when we're still that we can be truly moved.